G'day, it's Pete here, and today I wanted to talk about understanding bridge signaling. So in bridge, the order in which you play your cards can convey information to your partner, and this is legal information, and you have to agree what signals you want to play. There are lots of signals out there. So today I'm going to cover the main ones that I know, when they apply, how they work, and also the different names that they go by, because lots of them go by different names. So let's jump straight in and talk about some of the different types of signals. So the main signals, the main times that you give signals are on your partner's lead, declarer's lead, and your first discard. These are the three main times that you give signals, and you can give different signals for each of those different categories, or in certain situations you've got you might give one or give the other. But this is something that you have to discuss with your partnership and say, on declarer's lead, we will give X signal, or on partner's lead, we will give this signal. Now, some people just like just one type of signal, and they give that throughout in every situation. Other people like to chop and change a lot, so it really depends on what you're comfortable doing. But let's talk about some of the main signals. So the first one is encouragement. So you might play high encourage, or you might play low encourage. So if we look at an actual hand, so let's say that the opponents are in two diamonds, and our partner leads the king of spades. Okay, so one type of signaling is high encourage, or also known as natural attitude or standard attitude. So the way it works is when partner leads and we're following suit, but we don't need to play a card. So here partner's led the king, so we don't need to play our ace. We could play our 10, our 6, or our 5. All of these are sort of irrelevant cards. You probably wouldn't want to play the 10 because it could be a useful card. So we don't signal with cards that can take tricks. But between the 6 and the 5, we could play either of them. They're kind of irrelevant. But we can use those cards to convey information. So if we decided to play high encourage, we could play our 6. And basically, the way high encourage works is when you're following suit, the higher card that you play, the more you like it. And you're trying to tell partner, yes, I want this continued. Or I have an honor here. I like the suit. So you might encourage if you had either the jack or the ace, because you know your partner's got the king and the queen. So high encourage, also known by natural attitude, standard attitude, there are a couple of different ways that they're called. So if that's what people say they're playing high encourage. So main things, we don't want to signal with cards that might take tricks. Now the 10 probably wouldn't take, is good enough. Like you can probably throw that away, but it's a bit risky with 8/4 there, so we could use the 6. If instead we were playing low encourage, and this is just the complete opposite of high encourage, we would play the 5 to say that, yes, I like the card. So the 5 here would say, partner, I like this, please continue, I have an honor here. Low encourage is also known by reverse attitude or upside down count, or not upside down count, upside down signaling, or also UDCA, UDCA, which stands for upside down count and attitude. So if you play low encourage or reverse attitude, that's where you play a low card to say that you like it. So for example, if instead of a spade, if partner led the 10 of clubs and dummy's got king, queen, jack, we really don't like this suit. So when they put in the higher card, we can play any of our little cards here. Now we don't like it, so we can put on the 9 to say, partner, I don't like this suit. Whereas if we had the ace, and for whatever reason we didn't want to take the ace, but wanted to preserve it, we could play a low 1 to say, yes, I like this suit. So that's low encourage, where a low card says that you like it, and a high card says that you don't like it. And you use these when you're following suit, but you don't actually need to play. So if you actually needed to play a higher card, then you can't actually signal. So it's when you're just following suit and it doesn't matter which of these cards that you actually want to play. Okay, so that is high encourage and also low encourage. So they're two of the more popular ones. Low encourage is, so you have to choose them. You can't play both high encourage and low encourage in the same spot. But you and your partner, before you sit down and play, discuss which of these you actually want to do. And most popular is probably low encourage. So another type of signal is natural count. So sometimes you want to tell partner how many cards you have in the suit. So low encourage and high encourage tell partner whether or not you have honors in the suit. Whereas high encourage and natural count and upside down count or reverse count talk about how many cards you actually have in the suit. So encouragement is about honors. Count is about length of suit. I completely messed that up before, but yeah. So encouragement, do you have honors? Count, how many cards in the suit do you actually have? So here when, let's say, partner leads the king of spades. So sometimes we want to tell partner if we have an even amount of cards or if we have an odd amount of cards. And the way natural count works is if you start with a higher card and then a lower card, then you have an even amount. So in spades, we want to tell partner we have an even amount of spades. So let's say we play the 6, and then when partner continues another one, we play the 5. Because we played a high card and then a low card when following suit, if you play natural count, you have just said that you have an even amount of cards. Okay. Now, if instead we were playing reverse count, we'd do the opposite of that. So reverse count just switches the way of these. So with reverse count, if you play a low card, then a high card, you have an even amount. And you just have to choose which way you actually want to do this, and if you want to give count signals. So the king, then the queen, and we played the 5, then the 6, this would say we had a even amount playing reverse count. So one way to remember standard or reverse is if we go back to leading a doubleton. So think of a different situation where you're on lead with a doubleton. If you were leading the suit and you only had 2 cards, usually you'd play your top of a doubleton and then you'd play your low one. So with standard count, with a doubleton, you would be doing the exact same thing when you're following suit as you would when you're actually leading. So if you had a doubleton, you'd play your high one, then your low one, if you were leading the suit. Reverse count flips that around. You play your low, then your high. So standard is pretty similar to the cards that you would actually be leading in the suit if you had 2. So that works for 2, 4, 6, and so forth. Whereas reverse count switches it around. Now, my preference is to play reverse count, but the swing cases in these are so minimal. Whatever you like to play, you can play. But again, you and your partner have to choose. So natural count is also known as standard count. Reverse count is also known as upside down count or just upside down. Or also if you see UDCA, UDCA, then people are playing reverse signals with low encourage and reverse count. Okay, so bit more about reverse count. So they're both reverse count and standard count, same thing but switched around. Let's just talk about reverse count here. So here, if I wanted to show 4, I would play my low one, and then when my partner follows again, I can play low then high. Now sometimes partner can work this out from just seeing one low card that you have this even amount. Sometimes they need to see 2 cards to actually piece it together. If instead we backtrack and see a club lead, so here with playing reverse count, we have 3 little cards. None of these really matter. So to tell partner that we have an odd amount, we start with a high card, and then when they see another one and we play the lower one, then they know we have a odd amount of cards. So with 3, you play higher than low. With even amount, 3, 5, 7, you play higher than low. With even amounts, you play low than high. And backtracking, reverse count is the opposite to what you would be leading if you only had 2 cards. So just use a doubleton to try and remember this. If you're playing reverse, it's the opposite to what you would be leading. So from doubletons, people tend to play higher than low. So if you're playing natural count, you'd still do that for an even amount. Whereas for reverse count, you switch it around. And this, like, the only swing cases in this come from when you might be accidentally using a card that would be taking a trick. So again, you don't want to signal with cards that could potentially be taking tricks. So 10s can take tricks, so you want to be hesitant about using 10s to signal. We also don't signal with honors, so like I don't use jacks and things to signal. I put them in my own special category. There are times that you can signal with them, but in general we don't use honors to actually signal. Okay, so these are the main ones: high encouragement, low encouragement. You pick one of those. Natural count, reverse count, you can pick one of those. Now you don't need to play both of them. You might just play count, you might just play attitude, or might just play low encourage, that sort of stuff. But you have to know when you do this. And the 3 main situations: partner's lead, declarer's lead, and first discard. A couple more signals that apply are suit preference. This is also known as Leventhal or McKenney. And how these actually work is what you do is you play a higher card to say that I like something in the higher suit, or a low card to say something I like something in a lower suit. So let's, for example, say partner led a heart, and for whatever reason we knew that they actually had a singleton heart. So we want to tell them how to get back to our hand. Okay, so they've led a singleton, and we want to tell them how do we get back to our hand. So the way suit preference works, one common situation that should nearly universally be played is when you're giving your partner a ruff or letting them trump something, you tell them how to get back to your hand. So on this hand, they've led a heart to my ace, and I want to tell them how do they get back to my hand to potentially get another ruff or another trump. So what we do is, if we liked something in clubs, we would play our lowest remaining card. If we instead, like we do on this hand, like something in the higher suit that isn't the trump suit, we would play our highest card that's not the honor. So here we can lead back the 8, and that says, excluding the trumps and excluding the suit that I'm giving you the ruff in, if I like the higher remaining suit, I'll lead a high card. And this way your partner knows they can lead a spade back to your ace and potentially get another trump. So when you're giving your partner, like they're out of a suit and you're allowing them to trump in, you can play suit preference, or Leventhal or McKenney. They're all the same thing. And basically how that works is, of your remaining cards, if you play a low card, it says I like the lowest remaining suit that isn't the trump suit and isn't the suit I'm playing now. Or you can play a high card to say I like the higher remaining suit that isn't the trump suit or isn't the one we're playing now. So here we can send our 8 back to tell partner, yes, I like spades. Please send a spade back to me so I can let you trump another one. So here when partner trumps in, they can then play a spade back to your ace. And if you wanted to give them another trump, that's how you can do this. So suit preference is a really powerful signal. You can play it in lots of different situations, but when you're giving partner a ruff or letting them trump in, this is the main time that you want to do that. Another type of signal is called odds and evens. This is typically only played when you're doing your first discard. You can do it in other situations, but it's best when you're just doing your first discard, if you're going to do it at all. So let's say that the opponents start playing diamonds, and we get to discard here. So the way odds and evens work is, if you play an odd card, you are encouraging that suit. If you're playing an even card, you're giving suit preference. So here, if I wanted to encourage hearts, I could play the 3 of hearts to say, yes, I like hearts. If I wanted to encourage spades, I don't have any odd spades, so I can't play a spade to say that I like it, but I could give suit preference. So the way I could do that is I could pitch the 8 of hearts, where of the even cards, a higher one says I like the higher other suit, and a lower one says I like the lower other suit. So here the 8 of hearts is obviously a high heart, and it's even, so it says I like spades. If instead I wanted to signal for hearts without discarding a heart, I could also discard the 2 of clubs, because that says I don't like clubs because it's not an even card, and I like the lower remaining suit that isn't the trump suit and isn't clubs. So out of spades and hearts, that would be hearts. If, on the other hand, I wanted to encourage hearts without pitching a heart or a club, I could also pitch the 10 of spades to say I like the higher remaining suit that isn't the trump suit and isn't spades, which is also hearts. So that's how odds and evens work. There's a lot of detail in there. One issue with it is all of your cards are actually definitively signaling something, which you might not always want to do, and you might not always have the right cards for it. So for me, it's not my preferential signaling method, but some people do like that. So I thought that was worth mentioning. Okay, so we've covered the main ones, which are high encourage, low encourage, natural count, reverse count, suit preference, and odds and evens. So these are the main types of signals. You will see some other ones, but let's just go through when they work. I've covered a bit about how they work. Let's say when they apply. So the main times that you want to be playing a attitude signal, or low encourage, or high encourage. If you have to pick, my preference, low encourage of the two. So let's say, when do they apply? I would play low encourage on partner's lead. So when partner first leads something, and we don't need to follow suit. So here, when partner's leading, we can play low encourage. So partner's first lead. Also, if partner's leading later in the hand, we can also do that if we've, I like to give partner a low encouraging signal at some point, so we can give them it on their lead. Another time that you play low encourage is on your first discard. So say we've led the king of spades, and for whatever reason the opponents start playing some diamonds. So here we get to discard. At this point, I also like to play low encourage. So we've already encouraged spades, so we could play the 3 of hearts to say I also like hearts. Now, if you play attitude signals or encouraging signals, these are not, you are not forcing your partner to lead these cards. You are just telling your partner. These are not direct orders. You're just trying to assist partner. They don't need to follow your signal. You're just trying to tell them a bit more about your hand. Now, if you're playing low encourage, 2 main times that you would typically play this are on partner's lead and your first discard. If instead, so next is natural count. When do you, or reverse count? Again, my preference is reverse count or upside down count. You can play natural count, it's fine. There's very little difference. Main thing about signaling is knowing what you're signaling when. So low encourage, you can signal this on partner's lead and on first discard. Count signals, these typically get played on declarer's lead. So let's say that declarer gets in, and declarer is now leading. We can give count signals. So you might tell partner when, how long a suit, like how many of that suit you actually have. So on declarer's lead, count signals are usually good. They're also good when there's like a good suit in dummy. So here your partner might need to know how long to hold up an ace, especially in no trumps. So signaling how many you've got is really, really useful in this case. So here, the way it works, if you're playing reverse or upside down, is a high card says you have an odd amount. So if you play higher than low, you have an odd amount. So this count signals are really good on declarer's lead. Don't use them in trumps. Do not signal count in trumps, but just when they're playing to other suits, you can give count signals. So reverse count on declarer's first lead, or declarer's leads that aren't trumps. You can also use count signals when you're discarding, but not your, like typically not your first discard. Although I have played count signals at every time on partner's first lead, discards, everything, that can work. So you can choose when you want to do it, but the most common situation is declarers, when declarer's leading and it's not the trump suit. You can also use it subsequently when after you've given a attitude signal. So after a partner's led and you've already given, you've already encouraged the suit or not, you can also do it. So count signals typically on declarer's leads when they're not leading trumps. You can do it in more situations. You can agree to do it on partner's first lead. You can agree to do it on discards. But the majority of people like attitude signals first. But I've played both, and I really like count signals, and I like them a lot. So do whatever you actually like to do. But mainly on declarer's lead when they're not leading trumps. Next one is suit preference. When should you play suit preference? So there are a couple of times that you want to play suit preference. So when you are giving your partner a ruff or a trump, so they've led a known shortage, you want to tell them how to get back to your hand. So if when you're giving them a ruff, higher remaining suit says I like, a high card says I like the higher remaining suit, a low card says I like the lower remaining suit, and that way they can get back to your hand. Other times that you can play suit preference is, let's say dummy has a singleton and your partner leads a high card. You know you don't want to encourage that suit anymore. You know you don't want to tell partner how many of that suit you have because dummy's got a singleton and they're in a trump suit. So you might want to tell them which suit's worth switching to. So that's another time that you can play suit preference. Also, when you're following suit to declarer's lead, if declarer does lead like the ace, count signals not particularly relevant. So this suit is solid, so all our little cards are kind of irrelevant. So we could also use suit preference here, where we could say, I like spades, or I like hearts, by the order in which you play your cards when following to a solid suit in dummy. So that's when you can also do that. If you were going to do the odds and evens discards, then that's usually done just on your first discard. And finally, I wanted to talk just a little bit about signaling with honors. You can use honors to signal, but usually I use them to say I have a solid suit from here down. So if we were looking at the dummy's hand and saying that that was our hand, if we were to signal in clubs, you could throw the king of clubs away as a discard or under the ace to say I have all the cards under this. I've got the king, queen, jack. I've got like a solid suit. So if you do throw an honor away, usually that's what it means. You've got this suit solid from there down. So king would promise the queen and the jack, queen promised the jack and the 10, and so forth. Final thing I wanted to finish on is signaling isn't the be-all and it's not everything about defense. There is so much to defense that you can do without signaling, and you should focus on those sorts of things of counting, using inferences. What is declarer playing? What do we need from my partner to beat this? Signaling is just a final little extension, that last piece of the pie, to help you in certain situations. Do not become over-reliant on signals, because otherwise you'll become lazy. There's lots of things that you can do without signaling, and you should try and defend without signals. It is it's great for your bridge to do that, and then once you've mastered that, then you get good at signaling and finish becoming a good defender that way. Do not over-rely on signals, but they are important and they just add that little bit of extra information, but don't forget about everything else. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this lesson on understanding bridge signaling, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.